Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. This is Moyna Bass Fishes. I am Jim Moyna, professional bass fisherman. In this video, we are going to discuss a tournament that I fished today. It was kind of a fundraising tournament for the University of Minnesota's bass fishing team. We had 35 boats. You know, it's a smaller tournament, and with the purpose of trying to raise some money for this team. So, anyways, the tournament was on Lake Vermilion, up by Ely, Minnesota, Cook Tower, that part of Minnesota. It's a big lake. It's got largemouth and smallmouth to chase. Lots of numbers. Most anglers went after smallmouths. That the winners, which wasn't myself and my partner Pat Martin, the winners had 18 pounds of largemouths. Pat and Pat Martin's a friend of mine from going way back to the BASS Federation days back in the late 80s, early 90s when we were members of the Tackle Busters Bass Club here in Minnesota. So Pat and I, we weighed 5 smallmouths for 15.89 pounds, which was that was good for 6th place. So it was a 6th place finish out of the money. They paid down 4 places. We were just missing one good, one 4 pound, a 4 pound bite would have been the ticket, because our biggest fish was like 3.5 pounds and our smallest was about 2 3/4. So a 4 pound bite and put that bugger in the live well, and we would have, we wouldn't have won, but we would have at least gotten a 3rd or 4th place finish. 2 good bites, 2 4-pounders, and we would have been right, in the hunt. So that's how we finished. As far as what led up to this, well, it was about a week ago. Pat called me and he asked me if I wanted to do this tournament. So I'm like, I haven't seen Pat forever. I like to fish. I like to fish tournaments. I like Lake Vermilion. I'm a University of Minnesota alumni. It's like, how could I say no to this? So I met Pat Friday night. I showed up at Lake Vermilion. Pat already fished Friday for good more than half the day with just mediocre results, but you got a little inkling of what to do. Then him and I went out yesterday, which would have been Saturday, yesterday was June, 29th maybe, or 28th. Today's Sunday, 2024, June Sunday, which is either the 29th or 30th. I am not sure. Sorry, but not that sorry, because you get the point. All right, so Pat and I practiced yesterday, and it turns out that it was super windy, spitting rain, just here and there, meaning just that misty small rain pellets just blowing on and off. A little squall would hit, and then it would kind of, all of a sudden there'd be a patch of blue sky, then another squall would hit. It was that kind of a day, a lot of wind. We caught one good one over 4 pounds, a really nice one. Then we caught some other fish, but it was kind of, we really didn't feel like we had it going on so great, but so be it. That was our practice yesterday and Pat's half a day or whatever it was on Friday. And so today, this morning right away, it was for the end of June in Minnesota, it was still pretty cold. I think we had a temperature at morning takeoff at 6 a.m. of like in the 42 to 44 degree range. I was wearing like thermal underwear. I was wearing like a thing you wear over your head, not a hood, but it's like a separate piece you wear over your head, whatever you call that thing. And then of course, two sweatshirts. I had then I had my Rage rain gear by Blackfish, which is very good for wind and wetness, but we didn't have to deal with rain because it was blue skies in the morning, and the fish were biting right away in the morning. Basically, our pattern was we're shoreline or bank beaters in this tournament. Just Pat had some shorelines picked out, and so we just ran this pattern and caught a lot of fish. Really, I mean, we had some lull. We hit some bad stretches where we weren't catching anything for a while, but then you hit a good stretch and you'd bang, two, three, four fish in short order. We just didn't. We just couldn't come up with the quality. Uh, that was just the big bite wasn't there. So the kind of banks we're fishing, just a lot of, the whole lake's pretty much rock, but there's a lot of sand too. But we're fishing, rock banks and throwing jerk baits and marabou jigs, a little bit of spinner bait, um, and that was kind of our main baits. And we would, and the shorelines are all pretty. I mean, you can go down a shoreline and there's not a whole lot of irregular features, and then suddenly there'll be like a little shelf of rock sticking out. Maybe, it vary, but maybe it might be sticking out, 30 feet from the bank, 35 feet. A lot of these places where these fish were sitting were just on small little subtle, just shelves or isolated big rocks that are just right off the bank. And I got a sneaky suspicion that a lot of these fish we were catching were males that were still lingering around the shallows from the spawn. Maybe not all of them, but I just remember a Champions Tour tournament here or there on Lake Vermilion. This is not Lake Vermilion behind me, by the way. I just remember a Champions Tour tournament on July 7th a couple years ago, and there was a lot of fry garters and a lot of smallmouth eating their own fry. On that July 7th tournament, a lot of just fish up shallow and a lot of males up shallow. So we might not have been too far off of the timing for that with our tournament today, which is why I think we were just catching a lot of males. Even our biggest one, it's hard to tell. We couldn't tell. I mean, there's some stockiness to a couple of our better ones, but don't know for sure. But anyways, that's just my sneaky suspicion, but it could be wrong. So yeah, just moving down the shoreline, and Pat liked to. He was throwing a lot of the jerk bait, just throwing it up near shore next to one of these little rock outcroppings, and he'd work that back in a erratic fashion. Most of what I did today was fish the marabou jig, but not at all times. They wouldn't bite it right away in the morning, by the way. They were biting the jerk bait good, and I caught a couple on my spinner bait without much problem. But man, I started out throwing the marabou jig, and I never had a bite. In fact, when I finally got my first bite, it had to be about 9:30 in the morning, and that was a small one that I threw back immediately. But I knew that was going to be the start of it, okay? Because I knew eventually that marabou jig bite was going to come into play, and from that point on, then I started getting regular bites on it, just depending on if this bank that we're fishing had fish moved up on it or not. Because some of these banks that had fish on it, let's say on Friday when Pat was there, well, they didn't have any fish on it, today, and so not every bank held up. Some did, some didn't. But anyways, why don't we take a look at, did I mention we got 6th place? Yeah, I did. So why don't I just take a quick look at some of these baits I got tied on here, so you know what I'm talking about. So first of all, like I said, I was throwing a marabou jig most of the day myself, and that's simply just a little jig head tied up with some marabou. Okay, black's a great color to throw. Brown's another one, but I was throwing black today. That's what Pat was throwing when he'd throw his. And it's a good bait to throw out of the back of the boat, especially because Lake Vermilion and a lot of other lakes in that part of the state are really snaggy. It's impossible to start dragging drop shots and dragging football jigs. It's impossible out of the back of the boat because you're snagging the bottom constantly. Even with this, I had to have Pat go and snag this thing like 20 times. I hand tie these myself. I'm not going to just break them off, because I would have broke every one off I owned today if that was the case. Did lose 2 of them today, but I mean, I can accept that. So, but yeah, so that was a player, and to fish it, it's just a real finesseful way to fish it. You just throw it out there, and it sinks really slow, and then you just kind of swim it along. And I tried not to let it fall away to the bottom too often, because I mean, as soon as it touches bottom, man, it's snagged half the time. But with the lightweight, you know, with its lightweight and just the way it just kind of flutters, and not really flutters, but just kind of drifts along and stuff, you can keep it out of the rocks pretty good, better than a football jig or a drop shot. Now, if I was running the front of the boat, I could use my all-terrain tackle football jig here, okay? But I would be using it knowing I was going to snag it a bunch. But I would be using my forward sonar to get a better idea of what the better casts are. Meaning, I don't want to cast over a tall rock, because I could see that in my forward sonar, so I could cast to the top of the rock and pull it off on the near side where it may not get snagged so easy. So, and in fact, my other tournament partner, Joe Thrun, and I, when we fish Rainy Lakes, sometimes I'd use this, and I just tell Joe, don't even tie one on, because you're just going to get snagged up. I mean, you get snagged up a lot with that football head, but sometimes it's so effective, you got to stick with it. The spinnerbait, this bite was kind of happening right away, which I don't understand. I mean, we're fishing relatively shallow water, and we had a super cold night. You know, I mean, it was at morning takeoff, like I said, it was 42 to 44 degrees. So you think the fish would be just off, but man, Pat started catching them on his jerkbait right away, and I started with that freaking marabou jig, and I wasn't pulling in nothing. Then I picked this up, and almost immediately I caught one, and then I caught another one. But eventually that bite died. It just kind of got off of that spinnerbait. Eventually, another bait. Here's a jerkbait that I didn't throw a whole lot of jerkbait, but this is one that I use right there. And I did catch one that, you know, it called out a fish. I don't know if we ended up keeping the one I caught on this eventually, but at the time it called a fish out. So, like, you know, it was one of those 2 3/4 type pound fish. And yeah, so I showed you that. All right, those are the baits that you need to know about. And those are the ones we caught our fish on. There's no other baits here that caught fish. All right, so 15.89 for 5. It was a 5-fish limit. So that kind of summarizes it. Today was sunny and relatively calm. There was a slight breeze today a little bit, but that was the conditions. So we went from just a lot of wind and overcast yesterday, spitting rain, then today just bluebird skies and just a light wind or no wind, which is why that marabou jig can excel in that kind of a situation. So notice we didn't have any top waters going. Top waters can be great smallmouth baits, lures. Smallmouths can really go after them, but I don't like to throw a top water on the first bluebird day after a drastic drop in water temperature. So that's why I didn't even have one tied on. So, and I love top water fishing for smallmouth, but I didn't see it coming. I didn't see that happening. Who knows? Maybe the guys that got second place with smallmouths caught all theirs on top waters. I don't know, but I just didn't feel it, so I didn't even tie one on. Pat didn't have one tied on either. All right, now for the now I'm gonna plug a product here now. Okay, And the reason why I'm plugging this product is because I liked it so much that the guy sent me a whole bunch of these now. So in return, I thought maybe I'd point it out to my audience. And really, it's a really good product, because the guy gave me this product in January of this year, and I got to liking it so much. I'm like, the more I use it, the more I realize this is way better than what I had been using. And probably for like 3 months now, I've been telling myself, I need to call this guy. I have his phone number. I need to call this guy. I need to call this guy. I need to get a shipment. I need to get more of these, because that's how good they are. And I finally did, and he sent me a bunch, and for nothing. Sent me a bunch for nothing, with just one stipulation, that I at least mention it on social media. So here it is, and here's the product. It is, you saw it a minute ago, it is this this lure guard, and I really like it, because if you've ever used any lure guards, they're usually made out of some kind of fabric, and they have Velcro edges, and they wrap, and you gotta take 2 hands and wrap it around, and it takes a few seconds. So this is, I mean, literally just boom, just that quick. Okay, it's a hard plastic. Now, why is this better? Okay, I just said it's quicker for one, but even more important is the fact that because it's all hard material, these hooks, I've yet to have this hook hang up and snag in any part of this product. Whereas all the other lure guards I've had, the lure keepers, they're made of like a fabric of some kind. You know, I've used several different brands, okay? So it's usually some kind of flexible fabric that wraps around everything, or it'll fold over, and then you have Velcro edges. You know, Velcro seems to be a common denominator in all those lure wraps. But there's also stitching and fabric. So my hooks, even if it was like a clear plastic that the hooks really don't dig into, but you still have the stitching of the Velcro around the edges, and my hooks would get caught in that stuff. And then some of the fabric ones I had, the hooks would just go right straight through the fabric. And every time the hooks would hang up in this manner, you know, you got to, I mean, half the time I'd have to get out my pliers and start trying to work it back through. Eventually it would work out, but now I'm 30 to 60 seconds of wasted time, right? And I've never had to do anything with this. This is called Bait Safe, by the way, and you could find that on, what is their website? You know what? I'll have to look up their website, and I'll post it in the description, but it might be baitsafe.com. I don't know, but just look for this little contraption right there. All right. Thank you very much for watching the channel. Hopefully you found some education out of this, some entertainment, and that's it. Over.